I think that a politician's role is essential. The politician's role is a moral one. It's as a protector of the arts and of culture. It is incredibly important. Politicians must give a priority to art just as they do to the environment, to health, and to well-being, and it's not really the case now. We need to see it at a community level, at a national level, at an international level. Culture has to be put first in order to avoid what I call a war of civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Merci.
We have probably just time for one more question from the audience.
This is another political question. My name is Julie Herdlicka, and I'm a candidate in the next provincial election. And I'll just maybe apologize for potential rant. I went and saw Naomi Klein last night, and I'm still vibrating from some of the things that Naomi talked about. But in regards to the arts in Alberta, I guess some of my concerns are around, and you guys have talked a little bit about them, but more the social infrastructure. We're in the middle of a boom, and we're seeing one of the largest homeless populations in the city, in the country, happening here in Calgary. There's devastating effects of this boom that many of us are being affected by, including artists. And when we look at lack of affordable housing, and the fact that, you know, I'm talking to artists and seeing that they're actually leaving the province because they can't afford to live here, because there is no vision in this province, like you talked about. There's no looking at all sectors of this society and having a plan for the future. And after seeing Naomi Klein last night and then opening the paper today and the $2 billion that the Auditor General talks about, that 3 years ago that this government had a report done that knew that that money was to go to Albertans, but they refused to address that issue at the time and to look at things like art and like housing and addressing the issues that are important to Albertans. And so I'm going to just throw that little rant out to you guys in regards to the social infrastructure and the need to keep our artists in Alberta and create the community, the vibrancy that needs to happen to create great art here, because there's so much potential in this city, there's so much potential in this province, and so I'll throw that out to you. Thank you very much.
Can I just say something?
Go ahead.
You know, it's interesting. Yeah, good question. I'm just going to contradict a little bit what I just said to Lance. It can't be just government providing resources. It has to be the community and government working in partnership. And you raise an interesting issue, and Michael and I were talking about it yesterday, the whole issue of housing for artists and retiring artists. And actually, in the work that I do, that's a subject that has been at the forefront. People in this community are talking about that. It's very possible that we'll be doing something about it. And now we have to, you know, I believe that we have to make the right representation to the government, and governments in general will act on good ideas. And so just on that point, there is a lot of, there's a lot of groundswell coming up and a lot of interest in the subject. And maybe in this environment with government paying more attention, we actually will be able to act on something like that. But people are talking about it, and to me that's a first. I don't think we've been talking about that issue particularly. Artists and where they live and how they survive in a community like this. I don't think that's...
I've been talking about it for a long time.
You may have, you may have.
But you're right,
but at the funding level we haven't been talking about
correct.
it. Correct,
yes. And I'm not just thinking about it, I'm going to do something about it. I'm just not sure what yet.
And if I could just add one other small observation, and that is, you know, I think what your question speaks to is, in some ways, the relationship between the arts and artists and broader economic development and community development issues. And because I don't think these things can be separated out, actually. I think when we're talking about arts and culture, we're talking about community. And it is so complicated. There are so many offshoot issues there. I mentioned earlier that Calgary Economic Development is a partner, a sponsor of this series for the year. And without speaking for Calgary Economic Development, because I certainly have no right to do that, I have to say that having been part of many of the discussions and thinking that they are leading with regard to economic development, that I think there's a growing, and I'm reflecting what you said, Cynthia, there's a growing awareness that the arts and culture in the broadest sense are absolutely intertwined with the potential success and future of this city. And I believe that. I can only say that I believe that, and then my experience has borne that out so far. So I think it's a very, very important point. But I see it quite a bit, and hear it in the discussions now, too. Really, truly do. So.
Yeah. Yes, true. If I had a dream, you know, because it is not every day we meet a city in an economic boom, you know. It's rare. Because I was not born when Venezia was, you know, on the track and developed fabulously. The development of Venezia, you know, caused the economic boom, you know. And the artists in Venezia were celebrated immediately because the dog, I don't know, the boss, you know, in Venezia knows perfectly the importance of culture as socialization. It was a guarantee of the peace, you know. And they celebrated the artists and the scientists too, the scientists and knowledge in general, you know, as the best way to keep the peace. And it is the case, you know. And I can understand today with this lesson, same lesson in a lot of poor villages in Africa where artists are very well respected as gods, you know, because they are a guarantee of the spirit of the society, of the community. Even if there is no means, there is some means for the artist, you know, because it is a guarantee of a little pieces of optimism, you know. That's the same thing. We are in an economical boom. I think people in charge of politics, in charge of making decision here, has to be very careful. It is a good opportunity to see it's possible to do things a little bit different, you know, and to be able to create a Venezia up north, you know.
Well, you know,
things like that, because it's so important.
You talk of the Doge, right? We all know that there's a mayoralty campaign coming up. You know, talking of the Doge in Venice. No, this is not. Are there any mayoralty candidates out there tonight?
I'm not candidate.
You're not. No. Too bad. No, but there isn't one here. So that's the kind of commitment we've got.
Well, on that note, we do have to end now. I want to say just a couple things. You mentioned that you'd like to be a Calgarian. You should know that housing prices here are quite high. So if you're going to get a Rideau Hall West, you should move now. Thank you, Excellency, for being part of this. It has really been an amazing discussion and a kickoff for this season. Thanks to you both, of course. And I also want to say that we're taking a couple months of break in Stirring Culture. As I said earlier, the next one is January 14th. Peter Sellers, just to give that introduction, is leading. He's not the Pink Panther Peter Sellers that died. He's the opera and theater impresario, quite accomplished, an amazing ball of energy is how I would describe him. Speaks to culture in the broadest sense, and it'll be an amazing evening. So I encourage you to put that in your calendars. Check our website for information, and then of course we'll proceed through the year. So thank you all for being here. Excellency, thank you once again. And we'll see you hopefully in January. And the books, the monographs are out in the lobby if you wish one. So thank you so much.
Thank you.